This is the moment Marvel broke its own rules. Not in the nihilistic way people say that at 2 in the morning, in a very specific, structural way. If you have watched any Marvel or DC property in the last 4 years, some part of you already feels it. A character dies. You wait. A character fails. You wait. The universe ends. You wait. Because somewhere in the back of your mind, you know there is another version, another timeline, a door back. And here is where it gets uncomfortable. The multiverse was not an accident. It was sold to us as the solution. More stories, more heroes, more possibilities. What nobody told you is that possibility without consequence is just noise. So what actually broke? And why does it feel like no one will admit it? Think about that for a second. Nobody will admit it.
Go back to 2008. Iron Man. One timeline. One Tony Stark. When Obadiah Stane tears the arc reactor out of his chest, you feel it. Not because the CGI is convincing, because you believe he might not make it. He is the only one. There is no variant, there is no backup. That scarcity of irreplaceability is what made every scene carry weight. The same principle runs through the entire first era of the MCU. Steve Rogers goes into the ice. He is gone. Coulson dies. Fury says, "We are going to avenge that." The whole structure depends on the audience believing that what happens here cannot be undone somewhere else. And the audience believed it, fully. Now ask yourself something. When was the last time you genuinely feared for a character in one of these films? Not worried, not curious, actually feared. That specific feeling where your stomach does something before your brain catches up. When did that leave?
The easy answer is that the writing got lazy. That's not wrong, but it misses what actually happened structurally. This is not a story about bad writers. It is a story about a system that changed its own rules mid-game and then acted like nothing happened. When Loki branched a timeline in 2021, it was not just a plot device, it was a declaration, a change in the underlying rules. From that point forward, death stopped being a door closing. It became a door opening onto an infinite hallway of rooms where the person you just watched die is still alive, just slightly different. The studios understood the commercial logic immediately. Why kill a character permanently when you can kill one version and sell tickets to the comeback? Why close a story when you can branch it indefinitely? On paper, it sounds like creative freedom. In practice, it is a slow leak in a tire. You do not notice it immediately. Then one day the whole thing is flat, and you are not sure when it happened. Here's where someone usually pushes back. They say, comics have always done this. Heroes die and return. Readers accept it. So why is the screen version different? Because the screen version asked you to take it seriously first. Decades of comic retcons work because readers understood the medium's relationship with continuity from the beginning. But cinema sold you weight. Cinema sold you Avengers Endgame, with audiences crying in theaters, then turned around and said, by the way, none of those rules apply anymore. That is not creative evolution. That is a breach of contract with the audience. There is something else going on underneath all of this, something the studios are not going to bring up. Consequences are not just a narrative tool. They are the thing that makes the audience attach emotionally in the first place. When you watch someone lose something they cannot get back, your brain does not just register plot information. It responds. It mirrors the loss. That is why people cry at funerals in films they have no personal connection to. Remove the permanence, and you remove the mechanism that creates that response. That is not an opinion. That is how emotional investment works at a neurological level. And the studios either do not know this, or they do not care. Both answers should concern you. What you are left with is spectacle without stakes, sensation without meaning. You can still have impressive sequences. You can still have clever dialogue. But the audience sits slightly outside of it, engaged but not attached, entertained but not moved. And here is the part no executive will say out loud. An audience that is not emotionally attached is easier to lose. Because once you are no longer invested in the character's survival, you are only there for the event, and events get repetitive fast. So we know what broke. The question now is whether it was an accident.
Here is where the interpretation shifts. We have been talking about this as a creative problem, a storytelling failure. But what if it is not? What if the multiverse was never really about expanding stories? What if expanding stories was just the sales pitch? Think about what it actually does at a business level. It extends intellectual property indefinitely, without resolution. It recycles recognizable faces without requiring character growth. It creates the appearance of change while structurally preventing it. A character who can always return from a variant is a character who can never truly end. And a character who can never end is a character whose licensing never expires. The multiverse did not accidentally erode stakes. It was structurally designed to prevent the kind of storytelling that actually resolves things, because resolution is bad for a franchise. Resolution means closing the loop, and you cannot sell a sequel to a closed loop. So the question is not why the storytelling broke. The question is who benefited when it did.
Look at how the DC side handled this differently. For a time, the original Nolan Batman films had a hard boundary. They were a closed story. Bruce Wayne did not branch into infinite variants. He had one arc, it ended. That finality is part of why those films still hold. There is a version of Bruce Wayne who made it to Florence. It happened once, it will never unhappen. Then DC tried to build its own universe, then fragmented it, then tried the multiverse play with The Flash. The box office said what the critics would not. Marvel is now running the same experiment at a much larger scale. The Kang dynasty was supposed to be the next Thanos, but Kang's entire concept is that he exists in infinite variants. You cannot fear a threat with infinite backups. Thanos worked because he was singular. Kang does not work for exactly the same reason the multiverse broke stakes in the first place. The problem ate its own solution. So the counter-argument that comics do this all the time does not hold, because this was never about comics. This was about cinema pretending to be something permanent, while quietly building a revolving door behind every exit.
So here is the uncomfortable question the studios do not want audiences sitting with. Was the creative decline the result of ambitious storytelling that outgrew its own structure? Or was it the deliberate removal of narrative consequence in service of extending a commercial asset indefinitely? Because if it is the first, the fix is creative leadership and better writers. If it is the second, nothing changes. The incentives are still pointing in the same direction. More variants, more branches, more events, less resolution. The audience felt something was wrong before they could name it. That instinct was correct. The stories did not get smaller, the stakes did. And when stakes collapse, the audience does not stop watching immediately. They just slowly stop caring. Then one day they look up and realize they have not been genuinely moved by one of these films in years, and they cannot pinpoint exactly when it happened. That numbness did not arrive suddenly. It was built slowly, film by film, event by event, trained into you. That is not apathy. That is the rational response to a system that trained you not to believe in consequences.
The multiverse promised everything. Every hero, every timeline, every version of every story you ever wanted to see. What it could not promise was the one thing that makes any of it matter: that when something ends, it stays ended. The stakes were never the problem. Removing them was. And once an audience learns not to grieve, they forget how to care.